Hey! That graphic seemed like it went on for a long time, but I think it was the same amount of time. What's up, everybody? It's January. It's 2022.
It is.
The year of the Toost.
It's Toosty.
Toosty.
We have to say that all year long.
So, hey, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
And
Can I do the thing before more people say hi? The list gets too long.
George Decker nailed it. All right, Talia, do the thing.
Okay. First one of the year. Hi, Giggles and Tammy and Kay and George and Caitlin and Kay against Stacy. Hi, Jennifer, Brandy, Kent and Philip and Brandy and Emily, Victoria. Hi, Henry and Bethany, Giggles again, and Nicole, Judy and Tim, Rhiannon and Julie and Rachel and Walt and Ed, Matt, Ashley, Dan, Katie, George, Martin, Jan, Bethany, and Willa. Hey, and Karen.
Hey. If you got your name in the song, you win $10.
10 of your own dollars. Go into your own wallet and find $10 and be like, good job, myself, and put it right back in.
So it is the new year, and it is the first discussion of the first book of the new year, which is The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. What?
Can you please put Nicole's? I just want to read this. I need a second.
One?
I'm not at the halfway point because someone thought it was a good idea to keep a man for a significant other. It was me. And I didn't get to read through his talking all day. But I'm here for all the spoilers anyway. Nicole. I feel your pain. Literally, while I was reading last night, 2 men in this house were communicating with one another, a big man and a small man. And I literally was laying in bed and I stuck a finger in my ear to keep reading.
That's what I do during a thunderstorm.
No, when y'all went to bed and I was still reading and y'all came upstairs and started talking, I stuck my finger, like I pressed against my ear so I could keep reading.
Yeah.
Oh.
Matt
y'all did not take the hint. All right.
You read the fine print on the $10 thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, all right. So The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. We are talking up to part 3.
Yep. Want to recap?
No spoilers. Past that point.
No spoilers. Past that point. Ooh, look,
I
look like a normal flesh human when I hold the book up.
Flesh human.
Flesh sock.
Okay, we got a soup. Wait.
Okay.
We've got a very quick recap for you guys. On Earth 175, Cara is helping Nick and Esther try to get support to overthrow Adra. She tricks Adra into traveling back to Earth 0 with her, and Maylene comes to at the last minute. Adra and Maylene are both killed by Nyame Between Worlds, and Cara is back on Earth 0. So that's where we stopped. Don't go past that.
Yeah, that is the ending point. Not only were they killed, but they were
like mutilated,
like mangled,
a little bit,
like turned into like human mush pretzel.
Well, at least
look, Peggy. It's not a spreadsheet, but I got a real good list.
At least what's her face just got like hug crushed. Other dude was like, rip you this way, rip you that way, bend you this way. And I was like reading the description and I was like, ew.
A major glitch in the matrix there. Okay, so there's a lot going on in this book. Let's just start with our initial impressions and then go from there. Who wants to go first? It is quiet.
I really liked it. I'm really enjoying it. It's so different and fresh and really interesting, and it's also gritty, and I don't know, it's just, I like the whole thing. It's not didn't go where I thought it was going to go. And then at the end of the part 2 or part 3 where we stopped is kind of where I thought the book was going to stop. So I'm really fascinated to see what goes on or what happens next.
I am a bit indifferent right now just because I think life just started with a brute force the second, January 3rd or 4th hit.
It's hard. January's hard.
Yeah, January's hard. So I listened to it, but I swear I've probably missed a lot just because of where everything is right now in the day-to-day. But I'm interested. I'm a little on the fence, and I'm hoping, like many of you do during these discussions, you get little nuggets of things that you're like, oh, okay, yeah, now I see that, or it's revelations.
Which are always very helpful.
So yeah, I'm interested, and I think it's well written, and it's gritty. Did you say gritty, Christy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gritty and I mean, it
It's
starts
not
off with
quick.
the like the acknowledgement and everything, and you're like, whoa, what are we unpacking here?
Honestly, the acknowledgement was like my first clue. Sorry, I just jumped right in.
Did I
Are you
read
done?
that?
No, yeah,
I
that's
don't
good.
think I
I'm
did
good. I'm
either.
done.
Okay, so I'll read it aloud because I love reading stuff aloud. To Grandma Tree, I love you. You made me. Please don't read this book. To you, you will always be with me, even if not in the way either one of us hoped. There's too much sun where I'm from. I had to give some away, and so I gave you away. Okay, that's a
Wow.
great
Okay.
opener because here's what happened. There were so many. Okay, I didn't start reading until last night. Duh. And I was reading what some of y'all were saying in the group about. See, I aimed it down and now it's too far. I was reading what y'all were saying in the group. Some people, like trigger warnings, or so I had kind of this idea of what this book was going to be set up in my head. Like initially when Christy told me about the book, I was like, oh, multiverse, this sounds super cool. And then everyone was saying, it's dark, be careful. And I was like, oh no. And then I opened it last night to that dedication page and I was like, I think I'm going to like this. Something about it just struck me. And I really am. It feels really weird to say that I'm enjoying this book because it is full of so much trauma and pain. So I don't like using the word enjoy. I find it very, very compelling and very interesting. It is making me feel a lot of feelings. It is hurting me to read it, but so far I'm totally sucked into it. I can't think of the word. How do you say you're enjoying something even though
Appreciating, maybe?
I'm really, really, yes, thank you. I'm really, really appreciating this book, even though it's hurting me. And I know it's probably going to end up hurting me some more before we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am enjoying it. It's definitely not what I expected. Especially based on the fun little blurb that we had in our initial poll video.
Which is pretty much from the back of
which
the
is
book.
the back of the book. It sounds like, oh, here's somebody that it's a multiverse romp with the one person who's mostly dead and the other multiverses. And I was like, well, that kind of could be a setup for a comedy. This is not that. This is not a comedy.
Ooh. No, we delivered that wrong.
But I'm still enjoying it in a different way. Like it's not a fun book, but it is interesting. It is interesting to sort of think about, she's realizing sort of these like possibilities of like multiverse theory, and she's created her own rules for how the multiverse works and how traversing multiverses are, which is fascinating. And then she's infusing that into like sort of these what if scenarios. So like she's taking this character with her very sort of like dark and traumatic past and like actually giving her an opportunity to realize these what if scenarios, whether she actually like wanted to or not. Like she's entering these other universes where things are either slightly different or like majorly different. And in doing so, people have already mentioned it in the comments that like the twists got like I was into the twist that she is not
Earth Zero
Cara. The
Yeah,
twist
I was
that
very confused because of the journals. And I was like,
yeah,
the twist that Adam Bosch is Nick's brother that is dead in all the other universes. Like I was like, oh, that's crazy, because he's like a Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk type in Earth Zero with this newfangled technology. And I just think that the way this is written is like very like beautifully real in a way. Like the way that she describes emotions and the way that she talks us through from Cara's point of view and from her perspective, like what she's feeling and how like she'll contradict herself in like back-to-back sentences, but it's like real. It's like, this is a person experiencing emotions in real time, and I can relate to that. Her situation is terrible, But I think that the way we're like getting such an intimate look into like her psychology and into her like reactions to everything and how she's like viewing all these things is just really well done. Like the writing is fantastic, and I think it's almost lyrical in a way. Talia, high five.
I was going to say, I am just, to be clear, I am still very genuinely confused about a lot of stuff that's going on in the book. But I will say this author thus far has given me like faith that they're going to clear it up by the end of the book.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of times when you're reading a book, you're like, I'm just never going to know what's going on, or I'm never going to understand it. Or it's about like the writing style itself is confusing. But I feel like, honestly, the way that I feel like she's doling all of this out very intentionally. And I feel like probably a large portion of the confusion I'm feeling is intentional and is going to be answered later. And I trust her. So I hope that is
Christy,
not
is this a
misplaced.
standalone? I can't remember. Or
It is a standalone, but
Okay.
there's on Goodreads there. If you look at her history, there's a book called Ashtown that's going to be placed in the
Okay.
same world, but it doesn't even have any sort of date on it, so I think it's very much in the works.
But this
Okay.
is new, like new. This book came out in 2020, right?
It's either 2020 or 2019, so it's pretty new.
Oh, okay.
No.
But it may not
Fresh.
Yeah, 2020.
may share the same universe, but it's not a continuation of the same thread.
I don't
Is
think
that-
so.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, I had some confusion, and I had there were some parts where like Christy and I kind of had to talk through it because there were some parts that were hard for me to follow. It's like, all right, what's happening? What is the plan? What are they trying to do, and how are they trying to accomplish it? Was some of the questions that I had to like constantly like, even just for this like first half, which seemed to conclude in a sense. Like, there's definitely more because there's a whole half of the book here, but
Yeah.
like that Earth 175 storyline, and
Was
again,
a whole-
no spoilers, but like
was like a whole book unto itself.
we got a little short story there up to part 3, and maybe they'll go back. I don't know. We'll find out, and we'll talk about it next time. But I thought it was interesting that like it wasn't like a traditional cliffhanger that ended that part. It was like, oh, because I was expecting this political struggle and all these things, and like her helping out the people on Earth 175. I was expecting that to be the story. I was expecting it to be like Stargate, where they like, in the beginning, like they go through the thing, but then like the whole episode is about them doing the thing on the one planet.
I was scared that Adrenic,
Adrenic,
that guy.
Hey, or Audra.
Audra.
I was scared that he was going to make it into Earth 0 and that they were going to be able to save him by like putting him in a pod, just like she got put in a pod. And I was like, oh no, now we're going to have in Earth 0. But then, he got.
Oh man, like
Too soon.
like balled up like a piece of
It
trash.
was a fallout.
It's bad that made
finishing
me
move.
want Twizzlers. That's gross. Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Twizzlers?
Twizzlers. Yeah.
I don't know. That kind of made me want a Twizzler.
Balling up a wad
We
of
should go
red
through some of these
mush.
comments because there's some
Yeah,
great
y'all
ones.
are so smart.
Yeah.
It's hard
Honestly,
for me to
y'all-
talk and click at the same
I
time.
know.
I gotta throw props to Philip. It's like 2 a.m. for him in the
Ugh.
UK. So
Philip.
Philip,
Holla.
Holla.
How's your brain even working at 2:00 in the morning?
Jay, if you're here, holla. All
Yeah,
of our
and-
overseas folks.
Yeah, no, he sucked. I'm super glad he got Twizzlered. I'm just,
Yeah, he was terrible. I really thought Maylene's death in the in-between was really interesting. And it was like,
The hug.
yeah, it was kind of kind, but also like killed her. I don't know. It seemed really fitting. And the fact that Cara was kind of happy that she escaped her world.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the thing that came out of the Ark of the Covenant. Like you know what I'm talking about? Or they see it and it's like this woman and she's like all like angelic and they're like, oh, and then she like looks up and she's the evil. It's an
So-
Indiana Jones thing.
And
good.
once again, no spoilers for everyone who's read ahead, but I want to know how they know which planet you can go to because your other self is dead already. Like, is it just trial and error? Do you just keep sending people there until one comes back? Like, how did they?
Yeah, let me add
figure
on to
that
that
out?
because I'm also confused as to why these like data ports exist on other worlds.
And they
I
put
just assume that
them
the
there?
data ports are there because that's how Wiley City operates, and it was something that was already established on most of the worlds that they're able to go to.
So that has nothing to do with world
Hmm.
traversing. It's just a thing that Wiley City has
That
on
was
every
my
planet.
assumption because it makes the most sense. And then how
Yeah,
they
so
figured out, I think
Victoria.
it was definitely real trial and error, and then they finally were able to get someone in there and then that didn't die and went to the data port and figured out, like, I guess they'll have like death history and stuff in the data ports.
They did find out, like Natalie says,
Yup.
they found out that Cara died on this one, and they were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Um,
true.
But she was reported dead, like, because what Adra thought that she was dead.
Yeah, and they were wrong about Earth, whatever she's actually from.
Yeah, she's
Two?
from Earth 22.
Yeah. Natalie. Correct. Correct, Mundo.
Yeah, so like they have a way of getting information, but when I was reading, I wasn't exactly sure how this information, like, it seemed to me like at first in my head I was like, oh, other agents have gone through and like set this stuff up, but that seemed weird to me.
I mean, but they have established these hidden places because that's where she hid.
Yeah, the bunk or whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, they made a bunker. I don't know how you do that. Like one person, you have to send a whole team to go dig a hole in the ground. I don't know.
Possibly that's a Wiley City thing too. I don't know. And they were able to like infiltrate give security status to people.
Imagine being part of that trial and error phase.
I
So,
have
all
a
right,
question for everyone.
Okay,
Are
go.
these characters really memorable? Or let me frame this up like music. Take a band like Rush. They're really good. They're super proficient and technical, like a good writer, and they can put it all together. But at the end of the day, when you listen to a song, you can't hum back a melody. It's like you go see a
I
musical.
can't name a single Rush song.
No, I'm
right
just
now.
saying, go to a
I
musical
can because
and
there was one in Rock Band.
you see a musical and you walk away and be like, that was really great, but I can't hum a single note from it. Whereas you go to some classics or something, and that's how I see the characters in this book. They're just not. It's all good, but nothing's like really hooked me. I can't walk away humming the tune or really be invested with
I'm
the
pretty
characters
hooked
so
on
far.
Cara.
Are
I
you?
don't-
Yeah.
I mean, the main character, yeah, definitely because we're like in her head.
Well,
The other characters are through her, like,
from her perspective.
from her perspective.
But also, like, I feel like Nick is super memorable just because he's
Which
I'm-
Nick?
I'm
all of them.
I'm very intrigued by religious Nick. I forgot the number of that world.
That's
175.
175.
I'm very intrigued by that one.
Yeah.
Well, okay, like we're gonna have to talk about all the trauma at some point. I find it very interesting how complex the situation to see that this person, there was a decision, a point in time that shaped them, and you can follow one path. I mean, obviously there's more than just two paths. The worlds are evidence of that. But like there's so many paths where he becomes an abusive monster. And then there's this one path where he recognized that trait in himself and like took a hard turn and was like, I won't do it. And so like you want to see that redemption because you want to believe that there's good in everybody, but it's still like I'm just so interested to see what happens. Like, does it work? Like, or
I-
is he always destined to be a monster? Like, I don't know.
It's like a major like nature versus nurture thing.
Yeah, but even in World 175, where he's the religious path, I feel like that's almost a disguise for him. It's a way for him to be out of his brother's like path and like not be a threat. Because I got the impression that there's a couple of times when he did feel that violence in himself and he was tamping it
Oh yeah,
down.
he recognized
Oh no, for sure. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But he recognized that, and he was like, he seems like he's deliberately trying to not fall into that. Like he did
Well-
recognize that it was a danger. So
Yeah.
I don't.
And even
I
in
don't
the
know.
worlds that he is a monster and like the Emperor of Ashtown or whatever, he did have some restrictions that were positive. Like he got rid of the what are they called? The parades
Guns.
or whatever. Got rid of all the guns. He wouldn't let kids under 15 or 18 get tattoos on their faces. So I
Ooh.
mean, yeah, he's awful, but there's a
But
level of
But does that come
something.
from like a benevolent place or from a control place?
I don't know. But can we also take a second to acknowledge? I'm sure other people put it together much quicker than I did, but I did not recognize the runners. How I didn't really, it never really clicked. I had to go back and actually look at a bunch of stuff that she had said before about them. I didn't really it didn't click with me what that was or what was happening until they talked about how there are no guns and that's how they kill people. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh, the runners are drivers and their vehicles are the weapons. And now I have to go back and read all these things about all the different ways that she died again. And all the different things about like children and all the bad things. But I was like, oh, that's what they did because of the no guns and there's so much so much to unpack in this book that's really not fun to talk about.
I thought when I realized that like the method of execution was from these like four-wheelers, basically,
Sorry.
It's motorcycles and vehicles.
Yeah.
I was like, that seems very inefficient.
Yeah.
But it is fascinating.
Well,
I'm getting like a weird like dystopian Mad Max vibe from the world outside of Wiley City.
a little bit, yeah. And Matt makes a really good point. This is a different topic, but I agree with this. It makes a really good effort at showing her perspective and just kind of how all over the place she is with her feelings for Nick especially.
Well, it was interesting. I think I forgot who mentioned it earlier. I had the comment on the screen for a while. Somebody mentioned about like it was Scott. I don't know how to say your last name. About other characters evolving through her perspective and how she keeps getting them wrong. And like I think that's interesting is that she comes in so confident sometimes with like, oh yeah, well what about your little sister who did this on her third birthday? And they're like, oh, yeah, she died as like a baby. And like
Bless you.
Bless you.
So sorry.
And George had a comment that was, does anyone else think Cara might be an unreliable narrator?
yeah.
And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's definitely an unreliable narrator in terms of like what is, sort of the omniscient truth. But I am okay with it. Like I don't feel deceived or anything like that because like we are experiencing the story as she is experiencing the story. So like when she realizes something, we realize it too, and we're like, oh, and I think she does a good job, the author, of like not making it like predictable.
Yeah.
Well, at least for me.
Oh
like,
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no, it has not gone anywhere that I thought it would have gone, or the setup when I heard about the book, I was like, oh, okay. You have preconceived notions of multiverse stuff, right? And I do think she's done a good job shattering some of those notions that we carry with us.
Mm-hmm.
But but like the contrast between Wiley City and Earth Zero and what we're seeing on like Earth 175 and what she's telling us about Earth 22 and all the other Earths that she's been to, the outside, the Ashtown, is interesting. What's the deal with the sun?
I just assumed that it's, if I'm going to assume we're very far into the future, and we've destroyed the planet quite a bit, and there's probably a gigantic hole in the ozone layer, and there are certain times of Earth's rotation where we're just getting cooked. That is my super sciencey.
Rotisserie.
I went to art school.
We're on rotisserie.
So like that's just because we're not our track record with taking care of the planet is not great. I figured it just gets worse.
So Peggy's asking about the point of the traversing. I'm guessing just in general, like that's fascinating to me. Just on itself is like that this company exists. First of all, they figured out how to traverse, and now they're like using it to get a leg up on their future or to like learn things about themselves.
They're also
like,
importing materials.
Yeah.
I feel like it might really mostly be just what they can sell, like the information from other worlds that they can sell.
Yeah, I mean it's like, but they're like, it's kind of like Biff and the Almanac, right? Like, what's gonna happen? And then, but they're also comparing like their own stats to other world stats to see like where things could have gone wrong. And
well, and there's also some worlds that are not happening at the same time. They're like a little bit ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And,
so yeah, I mean preventative measures. They're like, oh, there's an asteroid coming, and they know it. We didn't know it, but they knew it. So thank goodness we went and checked.
Yeah, there's a dried up river, and these random guys in black too that they think are after them.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I wonder if
so-
they'll show up.
so-
That's who Adra thought was after him?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why he made guns again.
Which-
I wonder.
makes me segue to the next point, which is, and Christy and I talked about this a little bit, is like, so Earth Zero has figured out how to traverse, and so far it seems like nobody else has figured that out. Like none of the other Earths that they've been to have figured it out, and they say, well, it's possible
Figured it out.
that people have, and they're just really good at hiding it. But she visits, and you'd think that like, there would be some sort of eldridge type company that existed in these other planets that she goes to, but it seems like there's not. And these men in black could be other.
Well, but I felt like they addressed
hopping.
that too, because like in most of the timelines, Adra died. Like he was killed by his father.
It's true.
So not only did he have to not be killed by his father, he had to be sent away to school. And then we would have gotten Eldridge on other worlds or on other Earths.
So just the fact that he is a rarity among alternate Earths means that Eldridge is not going to be a thing because he's the guy.
Or at least not on the majority of them. It still might be on some of the Earths, but we don't know how extensive Eldridge is.
So, maybe there are some cliffhangery stuffs. But we have this world where they're like emperors, I guess, right? Like they're called emperors, but they don't necessarily seem like emperors in like the traditional sense. Like when I was first reading about like Nick and like kind of how he runs things, it almost seemed like a crime boss.
Yeah, crime boss is kind of what I was thinking too.
But he has complete control over Ashtown, and like
It's like
Riley
Jabba.
City kind of stays back and lets him do whatever he wants.
Says Adam didn't start Eldridge, he just runs it now. But he was the guy that figured it out,
Ah,
right? Like he was the
interesting.
guy that like.
I got the impression that Adam is the reason they have the whole other Earths thing, the traversing thing.
Yes, that's what I thought too.
But if Eldridge is an older company, then it probably is on most of the other Earths.
Yeah. Okay. So this is why I agree. Like, this is why I'm okay with being confused about a lot of the stuff right now, is because I feel like she's going to give me the answers. And if she doesn't give me the answers, then maybe they weren't important.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm just confused, and that's fine.
Well, the world isn't looking at the world objectively. I think she has what? Oh, Philip's joke. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, the world objectively is a fascinating one, just in terms of like, the rules and the environment. But then seeing it through this particular person's perspective adds like a whole another thing to it. And like if this was told from Dell's perspective, for example, like we don't know a lot about Dell, and like Cara seems to think that she knows a lot about Dell, but we don't, even through Cara. Like, and Cara has this like and again some like really eloquent language, and like I needed her, like I needed my next breath, like that kind of thing. It's very effective. So the love story between Cara and Dell is one that I hope develops more. I'm sure we're going to get more information on that. But like if this was told from a perspective of Dell, or someone that has grown up in Wiley City, and from the respective comfort and like not badness, this will be a different story.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But the fact that we're getting it through someone who's been through so much, not only have they been through so much, but like they had the wherewithal to find a dying them or a dead them and realize like, this is me from a new place. I'm going to steal this person. And like that's like, even if I found like a mangled me, I wouldn't be like, well, I wouldn't make the leap. I wouldn't be like, oh, this is obviously me from a parallel universe. Let me just take their stuff and like skedaddle out of here.
Well, I think some of the technology was the same, like the cuff or whatever.
Well, and she could hear, she heard Dell. And what she heard, though, is she heard a voice. She heard a voice with concern in it. And that's something that she hadn't heard in years.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, there's someone, yes, there's the shock and the of seeing your dead body somehow, but also she hears someone calling out to her who cares about her. And I feel like in that moment, when she's already at the very end of a desperate rope, she literally was just like almost drowned. When you're that desperate and you're that broken, this was something that I think they say it all through the thing. She's constantly reaching. This was something that she reached out for.
Yeah. Well, I love that the book started with that. It started with her making Dell get concerned about her.
Yes.
And I feel like that was just such a great way to start the whole story, with like, just because of her background and everything and what she needs personally.
Yeah. She's like, I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to answer until I realize until it sounds like she's concerned, and then I'll answer, because I want to know that she cares.
Yeah.
I also think it's very smart how Dell drops her off 2 miles away from her checkpoint every single time. And it kind of made me want to be like, I need to start parking farther away when I go to Target.
Adam, your comment earlier, just my brain can't get out of my head a situational comedy where you're traversing and you run into your dead body that could be cast as your twin brother, by the way. And then it turns into like a Weekend at Bernie's futuristic space romp with you and just sorry.
Weekend at Bernie's. That's a totally different thing.
So sorry, go ahead, Talia.
Good.
It's not. No, this is not a good moment for it anyway.
I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna hold on to it.
Let's take a hard left.
I deal with hard topics by.
Okay, well then I'm gonna go all the way left and say, as someone who's never been in a physically abusive relationship, there are obviously things that are going to not trigger me in this book as they would others. However, I do know and care about and have known women who have been in abusive relationships. One very close to me who managed to get away. And then I know someone who didn't. And so that is rough.
Well, oh no, you keep going.
No, I was just going to say, like, I know that Natalie, I have a loud face. Also, I don't know what face I was making when you commented that. It could have been any face.
It was the Lucas's talking face.
Then it was probably this one.
I mean, as also somebody who doesn't have firsthand experience with that, like, you know, I think for people who are in that situation, like, it's frustrating to hear people be like, well, why don't you just leave? Why don't you just get out? Like, it's black and white, blah, blah, blah.
It's
And
not.
I think that this book does a really good job of like exploring that shades of gray psychology of like, I hate them, but I love them. And like, I hate them, but I love them. And I know this is bad, but like, I have like something still pulls me there. Like, I think that there's like it's very well written in that perspective, or from that perspective, or like from, you know, like this character is clearly like working through some stuff still. Like there's still like a lot of scars.
Well, and quite often I feel like people don't see where they are until they're out of it. And then you look at it from the outside, and that's when you can recognize it. But it's like, if someone comes along, if you stub your toe, this is the worst analogy I could think of. So sorry. If you come along and you stub your toe every single day, I don't want to relate it to a real human experience. Like, so I'm just going to dumb it down. I'm sorry. If you stub your toe every single day, eventually you become numb to it. And if it gets worse and worse and worse, eventually your toe breaks. And do you even know? Do you recognize it? Like, when you become desensitized. And so quite often people don't recognize the situation until it's far too late. And then even then, when you can get away, the sad reality is they're bad people, and you can run away and they'll still come find you. And that is, it sucks to read, but I think it's important. I think it's more almost, and I could be wrong, but I feel like it's more important for people who haven't experienced it to read this story, because like Adam said, there's so many people, they're like, why don't you just leave? And it's not like that. It's not easy. It's never black and white.
Yeah.
I think everyone should know that.
And it's also like, you know, you see somebody like Cara who's struggling with this, but like not once throughout this book do you ever get like a sense of weakness from her. Like she is like very strong.
No. She's so strong.
Very strong throughout, and like very like, you know, strong-willed and like a survivor, and like she's gonna do what it takes. And like she did do what it takes. She replaced herself on a completely different planet. No, same planet, different multiverse. The dog just appeared.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like so who was it that says like that said like it can seem gratuitous? It was Dan. Like, you know, like I can see how it can seem gratuitous and like shock value and stuff, but it's dogs drinking.
Sorry.
It's fine. All of our cats are like chasing each other.
Feed us.
But yeah, I think you're right. Like in terms of like, you know, people who haven't experienced that, like this is an interesting perspective that like is worth getting. And like the fact that we're
talking about something so serious, and it's so important, and your dog is drinking so loudly.
He's very thirsty.
These are really
No,
loud.
I'm fine. I needed the attention break. That's good.
Good boy.
Well,
and I think, oh, sorry, I wanted to just comment because R.L. Dane said I didn't think it was gratuitous, just painfully realistic. You know what? I think a lot of people, and this is not coming from a judgy place, but a lot of people who haven't experienced certain types of pain, when we see something that's new to us, it seems gratuitous just because we haven't lived it. And it's really not. It's just someone else's reality.
Yeah. And R.L. Dane says, I don't think it was gratuitous, just painfully realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna change the subject
Okay,
a
go.
little bit.
Thanks.
Lighter technically, but still we're gonna talk about the rules a little bit. So Kent Reed on the discussion topics post said, I thought one's counterpart had to be dead before you can enter into the other Earth. It seems that rule has been proven wrong, and it has by Cara twice now. And she was on the brink of death both times, but like she was saved the one time, and Cara thinks that she could have been saved the other.
What was the first time?
When Cara Lee took Caramenta's place in chapter 2. So she came across her body after being mock drowned.
Yeah, but
and
she
then-
didn't go to a world where she was alive,
But Caramenta did.
and she died.
But she was still alive when Cara
Was
Lee.
she?
I
She
think
was dying,
was.
but it was the same thing. I think it was, they were talking about, hold on, Alex, they're frozen grapes.
Oh, they're so good.
So they're not saying, I don't think you die. You can die immediately upon entering the other world, but it's
like Audra did.
or it is killing you. She was very fortunate to be saved immediately, but that's why they give you the injection, like the serum, the 2 minutes of pain free, so that you can say, hey, here's what's happening, zoop me back. So it doesn't, I don't think it's a guaranteed an immediate death unless you go there and then they're like, okay, well, if it half crushed you there, it crushes you the rest of the way on, on the way
reason it
back, you're
happened-
going to die.
The reason it happened for Agra so bad is because like Adam Bosch is so firmly like established in this
Yeah.
Earth Zero. Like,
She did mention that.
he is like he's a main man there. He's got all the things.
Yeah, and she
there
said
was-
it herself. She was like a
did she?
nobody.
There was no room for any duplicates. At the beginning, when Cara talks about the danger, she just said that people could survive the initiative would die very soon.
If you're going to read it out loud, you should read it to where people can understand you.
Yeah,
exactly.
Hey, we're all in a book club. We can read.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, like
Steve Moss. You did not just say you get yeeted back to save the tech, not the people.
No, that's true.
That's
Yeah.
true.
but like she went like Caramenta
Caramenta
is
is
the one that
Earth Zero.
died.
Yep.
Yeah, she died because Cara Lee was there. Cara Lee went back and just took her place in a world where she wasn't. So that was for her trip back to Earth Zero. That was good for her.
Yeah.
For her trip to 175,
She almost died.
she almost died. But the what was her Maylene
Maylene, yeah.
there? Like how would we like explain that? Like she's not as like much of a presence, and even though it seems like she clearly was.
It might
like,
be just how many people you've influenced and how many people know you. Because I feel like Adam Bosch is probably a household name on Earth Zero.
yeah,
Possibly. I don't know.
yeah.
No,
But I
he
mean,
was
even
not.
Maylene was his like mistress or whatever. That's probably
But she
fine.
did also say, like, she got really lucky. Someone was basically right there. So
Yeah.
she traversed in and she was like, oh, I'm dying. She recognized it. She was going to die. She used that pain free to try and get to where someone could find her. And she was very, very fortunate that there was someone already there. Like the runner was there. Like Mr. Cruz, was that his name? Something
Mr.
like that.
Cheese or something like
Cheek?
that. Cheek.
Cheeks.
Cheek.
We were
Cheeks.
close. Take Cruz and Cheese.
We got there.
Yeah. So he was already there and he was the one that found her. So I mean, otherwise I think, she would have died in a few more minutes probably.
Yeah.
If they have these pods that can like cure everything and it took her 4 whole days, then yeah, I would say that she was.
Oh, I thought it was really fascinating, like the whole Back to the Future, like don't come across yourself, and like what happened at least when they first saw each other. Through,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and they both like puking, and they're
Yeah.
like, don't look at me. But then that ended up being okay. Like and once they got over that, like then she could actually touch her and stuff.
I think it was more a mental thing than like a role. I think it's just hard to process that you're also someplace else.
Yeah, can you imagine how creepy and disorienting and weird it must be to look and see another person who looks like you?
I can't imagine that. He's not on this live stream, by the way. He
Aw, where's
told me
Justin?
he wasn't able to get to the halfway point in
Man,
time.
we would have had some great doppelganger talks.
I know.
Mm.
Could have had him on here, and we would have both just thrown up at the same time. Would have been
Happens
the
all the
live.
time.
Would have put that in the top 5.
Christy's like, it happens at every family dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not here. What were you gonna say? You got something
Last one.
on your list? Oh yeah, we haven't even talked about the house. People are talking about the X identifier for sex workers.
The Z identifier for laser tag.
Magical issue. Stop it.
Just makes me want to go to Qzar real bad.
Love Qzar.
Dum,
This live stream brought to you by Qzar.
Brandy, I want you to know.
It's my dishwasher, not
Oh, yeah.
Christy's, just mine.
I was
like, is that
what
the
just
microwave?
beeped in our house?
I just read, Brandy, I only read the first part of yours. And I was like, man, I'd probably pee my pants too.
that's probably pissed myself. Oh,
So
Probably
in the
I'd
discussion
do both.
topics post, Amber Nolan said, let's see, I find it interesting how Nyame is mythological and maybe doesn't exist, but without her, I would have a much harder time following the story. Personifying the physics of that world has made it so much easier for me to understand how it works. And I think that's a really great vehicle for explaining like how the traveling works and the bruises and
she's not even really sure of the science either. Like she's
No.
like, yeah, I'm not, they say something about press blah blah blah, but like Nyame is I like that too. I think it's an interesting way to
Well, it's a great way to explain the science to those of us who would not understand it, even if they tried to.
yeah, and the bruising she gets is Nyame's kiss, which I thought was kind of interesting.
it was Nyame that hugged
Yeah.
Maylene.
But I like it though, because she's talking about, I mean, but it makes sense. They're like, it makes sense. When you're talking about multiverse traversal, it totally makes sense that they'd be covered in bruises but I like how it's explained. It's literally just like the blunt force of forcing yourself into another world where you were not supposed to be.
You broke him.
I just say you plug them in, then they're cold.
the cold closet.
don't quit your day job, man.
Oh, look
Be a
at
writer.
Martin's comment underneath that. I wonder if Jean, her mentor, is also from another world.
Oh, Gene. Yeah.
Ooh.
Mean Gene.
Martin, I have a question. Have you been listening to the audiobook?
Because it's JEAN
I just want to know.
in the physical book. Yeah, the people at the organization, we talk about Gene and Dell. We haven't really talked too much about them yet.
We don't know much about them.
We don't. But the way it's like, like again, I thought we were going in a much different direction because like the first part of the first half was all about sort of like the company culture at this place and how like
John.
expendable she thought she was and how
Mhm.
she was worried that she was going to be replaced and sent back to Ashtown, or not replaced, but like, they were going to lay off a
Laid
bunch
off.
of them
Yeah.
because
But
they're
they
like,
have been.
they're like really close to figuring out how to do it without sending people. And she had to like, her friend
Star.
got laid off and like they were kicking her out and she went and gave her some apples. But and so like, originally like we're getting this like company culture, like, like my job's in jeopardy and I'm, you got to take the test to prove yourself, to prove that you're like good enough to keep on. And like, it was all about that at first. Like it was all about like, study and like,
Donna, I keep wondering if Jean knows Cara isn't from Earth Zero.
oh,
I feel like somebody has to know. And someone mentioned before, like she goes from Earth 22, and she's covered in tattoos, and then she goes to Earth Zero and has no tattoos. And how did nobody notice in the company? Like, I feel like somebody must know. And Jean seems like the one because I feel like he has the same kind of background that she does, at least on Earth Zero. Well, possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something there.
Like we went from like a hard shift from like, oh, you study to make sure your job is secure to like terrible things in Ashtown.
I mean, she did say, like, I imagine they're like she was fully clothed in a special traversal suit.
Probably.
Special traversal suit. And that the first thing she did was she got all of the visible tattoos removed.
Yeah.
So all the ones
Yeah.
that you could see, like hands and behind the ears and stuff, she got everything removed immediately, and then has been saving to get the rest of them. So, and also, I mean, if there's this classist system is so significant, then why should they notice what she really looks like?
True.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
true.
yeah, that
Do
was
they
fun.
actually do they care what she
Navigating
looks
in
like?
the cracks a little bit.
Maybe. And if she was brand new, this was her first mission, they probably honestly never paid that much attention to her.
Yeah, she played it off like she forgot everything that they taught her.
Yeah,
After
that
that
worked out
first
really
one.
well.
Yeah. And also like we had that like really interesting side story where she actually went and had a relationship with Adele on another planet or another Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that was like sweet and heartbreaking at the same time.
So heartbreaking.
And like this book just started off with so many like different things and different like interesting things about this world and like her journey as a traverser. And then it was like, oh, by the way, I'm not the real one. And it was like, what?
I was wondering because I was like, what is the deal with the journals? Why can't she remember her childhood?
Yeah.
Oh, Philip. Okay, he was saying, I was trying to remember they lost 2 Earths, just got nuked. All I remember is they talked about 382, I knew was nuked. But I don't think they said what happened to 381, did they? But they are, she was saying there's 380 worlds like their Earth that they can go to. And she's dead on a bunch of them, which really hurt my feelings. And then they mentioned 382 got nuked. But
I feel like also there was that disease, the rot disease that like totally overswept one of the Earths. And I don't know if it was to a point where they lost it or not, but
she,
it seemed like
she
it
has
was.
the baggie. She has a baggie full of,
She does.
she has a Ziploc bag full of COVID on her wall, which is terrifying.
Oh yeah, she got some trinkets. She
Well,
got
and
some-
R.L. Dane has a good point. He says they don't have to get nuked to get lost. They just have to be significantly changed.
the frequency is a different frequency. It's AM, not FM. Here's a spot where this breaks down. If her mother died as a child on some Earths, she would never exist. So these parallel Earths should be extremely different. Yeah, the butterfly effect seems to be minimal in some of these places where
Well,
it shouldn't be.
But if you're talking about a multiverse and it's technically infinite, then only having access to 380 is a lot, right? I mean, that's pretty reasonable.
I have a prediction, and no one tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm right if you've kept reading, but I think that Dell is going to find her jade earring that she lost and is going to realize that Cara gave her a 3rd earring, and she's going to be like, so you found me in another world. Why do you have this earring? And I think that there's going to be a confrontation. Don't tell me if
So
I'm right or wrong.
The cliffhanger that I enjoyed was at the very end when she finally came back, and Dell seemed to be like uncharacteristically compassionate and like reassuring when Cara reappeared and was like broken. Also, didn't really seem to acknowledge that there's another mangled her like next to her, like the reappearing.
But she told her that. She told her that
Did she?
the Maylene was alive on that world. When they were in the bunker and she finally talked to Dell, she was like, oh, she was still alive.
That's why I haven't responded. I've been kind of busy trying to not die.
Oh, well, then she
'Cause
showed up with
oopsie.
her.
Yeah. So, I mean, I
Like
feel
your
like there is
body.
going to be something that comes from that. But Scott asked, he said, I definitely want to see guesses about what comes next.
No, what?
Well, just from people who
No.
haven't.
Okay,
fine, we don't
it's
have
fine.
to.
Y'all-
That's
I'm
too
not reading it.
spoilery. It's too spoilery.
Oh, well, I guess I just did that though with the
You
earring.
did.
But it's
did.
only
You
like a
opened the
tiny
door.
thing. Sorry.
Floodgate.
But okay.
It's just a little
fine.
door.
Don't
Tiny-
do it.
An earring.
We'll talk
size
about it
door.
next time.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
I
Um,
won't do it.
So Dan asked, would you be disappointed if you had the ability to visit alternate Earths only to discover that the differences from our own are pretty small?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it would be cool to see, like, to go to a different Earth and see me, and I'm like the same guy, and I'm like, what are the
cool.
chances?
Yeah, I feel like all the Earths that you'd be
What's up,
on,
dude?
you'd be exactly the same.
You think so?
You're the constant, Adam.
No, come on. Like, there's
You are the time stream.
there's a multiverse where I'm like
I mean, personality
a
wise.
badass.
You are a
If there's a
badass.
universe where oh, why is she laughing so hard?
She stopped. She said, yeah, right.
I made a face. I'm sorry. I couldn't help it.
WTF.
It was natural.
WTF? Why the face?
I want to go to the universe where eating makes you lose weight.
I don't.
I don't think
Can
that's
I not
the
have to
way that
work
it
in the
works.
next universe?
Huh?
That would be cool if I were like independently wealthy.
There's a universe where you are.
There's a universe where all the BS ideas I throw at the wall work too.
That's the thing about the multiverse is, like, if you can imagine it, it is
right.
it is an alternate universe.
That's
like,
right.
There's a universe where, like, I have like 8 arms.
Hmm.
So your
I don't think we're-
universe where all the plants are made out of cotton candy,
Okay,
and also
guys.
that needs to be the same universe where you don't gain weight if you eat too much cotton candy.
That's why our cat likes to eat plastic and plants because
he's from an
he's
alternate
from an
universe.
alternate
He's so
universe.
stupid.
You're
I mean,
missing
not
the
stupid.
point. Those planets do exist, but we can't travel
We
to them
can't.
because they're too different from ours.
Yeah, we can
We
only
just
go to
haven't
the
tried
ones
hard
where
enough
the frequency is similar.
Within
So,
a range.
like,
yeah.
I'm gonna hop over to a universe where we're having this exact same live stream, except I'm wearing a different shirt.
Exactly.
That would be disappointing.
I'd be like, ah.
That would be super disappointing.
I feel like
Yes. Star Trek.
they should not they shouldn't be able to continue to go to the same Earths though, because they're just going to keep getting a little more different and go out of frequency range, and so but they'll get new Earths at the same time. Okay, this is just. I think we might be done. Y'all are so distracted.
No. Matt's on
Okay.
fire tonight. He went out of town for like 2 days and he comes
Admiral
back
D's.
just throwing bombs.
But, like, yeah, but this book doesn't even go there. It's not like, when I think of multiverse, and what was originally like about this book is like, oh yeah, she's gonna go to all these different these different universes where things are like crazy different, but they're like, nah, we can't do that. We can only go to the ones that are like adjacent, like in.
But here's the thing, it's still so interesting because what she's done is she's like, look, all of these Earths are the same, but look how wildly different our lives are based on these small differences, these small choices. And to me, that's an infinitely more interesting story than going and being like, yeah, we went to Cotton Candy Land or wherever.
Well,
because
and
it's just about choice.
Yeah, I really liked her favorite, Cara, where I guess as a little girl she wasn't a climber, so she ran instead, and she like got adopted / kidnapped, and then like had a really like privileged life. I think that's just, I don't know, so fascinating.
There's a universe where I'm still a professor. I would go there and be like, why?
But there would be more episodes of the Ghostbuster.
That's true.
Show,
Alabama Ghostbusters, the web series, would be on episode 7 by
Yep.
now.
at least.
Yeah. Okay, well, it is 8:30. We have made it to the hour mark, and this discussion has fueled my passion for wanting to read the second half of this book. I'm mostly because like we've talked about the first half, but like I genuinely have no idea where this is going to go.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, like this could be a whole new book in the second half, and like the possibilities are as limitless as the multiverse itself.
I feel like this is a book that you're going to, if you read it twice, you're going to get that much more enjoyment if it really turns out really well, because you'll be like, it's like watching Back to the Future or something, you know, the second time you're like, oh yeah, there it is. And I missed that. So you pick up some of these little nuggets that she's probably leaving throughout the entire story.
Oh yeah, we should. Next month we're reading this book again. Just kidding.
We're not. We're actually. Do you want to know what we're reading?
Oh yeah, the
The
unlikely.
We're The Unlikely Escape of Uriah.
Uriah Heep.
Heap.
Wait,
I was
let's
like,
make
you're
sure
a
it didn't change drastically since we
I
started.
think it was a 9-vote difference. I checked at the beginning of the stream.
and it is still a 9-vote difference.
Wow.
The Unlikely Escape by H.G. Perry. That will be in the Amazon store tomorrow. Not tonight, because I forgot to do it. It'll be there tomorrow. And of course, Hench and the other book whose title I just forgot will also be in the store tomorrow on the
I'll update
the runners-up
the site too.
list.
Yes. So I don't know about you, but I'm very excited for our second live discussion to finish out this book, which is on January
26.
2 weeks from today.
26.
January
January
26th.
26th.
So sorry, I'm talking and it's hard for me to go through the comments and put your comments on the screen at the same time. But
Y'all
y'all
had some
y'all are-
great ones tonight. Y'all are
this
on
was
fire.
This one got me kind of situated in my brain.
yeah, like
continue.
y'all were good, and I'm looking forward to hearing what y'all have to say in 2 weeks when we talk about the end of this book. And we got Giggle says Uriah Heep terrified.
Excuse me?
It's about zombies, tell you.
I quit. I'll see y'all in March.
I'm pretty sure there aren't any zombies, and I don't think it's
Scary.
scary.
Was that a person? Like a real person?
Maybe
There's a
maybe it's an
band,
actual maybe it's an actual thing, but we'll find out.
right? Yeah, we will.
Oh hey, first
I'm
time
downloading it.
What?
first time live with us.
Welcome.
Hey, it is a blast. We have a good time even when we're talking about like super heavy topics. Again, this is the best community on the internet.
Well, and I'd like to think everybody in the group has their own sort of everyone in the group has trauma, their own personal life experience, their own personal private trauma of some kind to whatever degree. And I like to think that this is a community that's a safe space where if you want to address it, you can. If you don't, there's no pressure, but that will also always be respectful of everybody else and what they've gone through and their opinions. And I'm always glad to see when people are being kind to one another and their discussions of serious stuff in the group, because just remember, if you're not, I'll delete you. But it's nice that I don't think that I've ever had to do that. I think I kicked a bot out one time.
Yeah, we've had a couple bots pop up over the years, but that's about it.
So, now remember to be kind to one another.
Nice.
And if you've
Or
already
else.
finished this book, The Unlikely Escape of Uriah Heep is 18 hours long in the audiobook, and that's
Is that long?
That's a
pretty
hefty
long.
one.
That's a party. That's a 2-day party.
Our books are usually around 12-ish hours on audio. So yeah, 18. So start earlier, Lucas.
Hey, don't
Lucas,
apologize
I'm really
for
talking
being
to
quiet.
myself.
We just appreciate you being here.
And
You can-
honestly, if just sometimes being a witness is how you self-care and take care of yourself, if you don't want to engage and you just still want to partake as a silent party, then do it.
It's exactly the thing a bot would say, by the way. All right. Well, that's it for us tonight. Thank you so much, as always, for being the best group on the internet. And we'll see you in 2 weeks for the end of this book. Bye, everybody. Let's do the weird dance thing that we never do sometimes.
It's not a
at the end of the-
weird. We're doing the shopping cart. Get stuff off the shelf, put it in the cart.